At the Princeton Review Score Plus. Today we will talk about studying medicines in the countries across the globe. In this webinar, I will cover the popular destinations which students look for. And if you have any queries related to any other countries, you may email us to get the detailed information on the same. I will be sharing our email ID at the end of this session. So let's move on. So what we're going to cover today is definitely the popular countries to study medicines program. I will also give you the insight on admission requirements of these countries and what are the important factors to become a strong applicant. Let's start with which countries we will going to discuss today. So as we keep on getting queries on day-to-day basis from our students, these are the popular destinations which students ask us for studying medicines in the US, Canada, UK, Germany, and rest of the Europe, in which the most of the popular destinations are like Ireland, Italy, France, Czech Republic, Hungary. Other than this, student also inquire us about Middle East because of a local destinations, and they may not want to consider the option of studying abroad at an initial level, and then maybe they will look for the master's program after doing their medicines here. So we will also going to cover the places like Qatar, UAE, Bahrain, Jordan, these countries which are popular for studying medicines in Middle East. Ranking and university reputations are an important factor for us to consider the universities before applying for the admissions. I have pulled out the worldwide ranking of top 100 universities for medicines program. Let's have a look to it. This ranking is basically of US ranking, which is a worldwide ranking for different countries and different universities. So as per this data, you can see that United States, the US is having most of the universities amongst the top 10 ones. Followed by UK, definitely, which is the next popular destinations amongst the students. And the other countries, like which is a mix of European countries, Asian countries. Australia is also a destination which many students look at. But when it considered to the most reputed universities across the globe, you will find them in US and UK mostly. Let's have a look at the US as an applicant pool. You can see that there are so many students apply every year for medicines program. But when it comes to having been accepted for the program, the percentage is really less. When it comes to medical school acceptance, out of 100 applications, 60%, I would say 60 applications, which is 60% of applications are denied, and only 40% of applications are accepted. Now, these 40% of applications in USA, I would say it's together a percentage of international and domestic students. So the seats definitely would be more for domestic students, and international students again would be having less percentage. So you can think of that when you're applying for medicines, how competitive it is. Okay. Let's have a look at journey to practice medicines in USA and Canada. So when you're studying, when you're planning to study medicines in US or Canada, you start with your undergraduate 4 years degree. Best would be to start in biomedical sciences or biological sciences, because it will keep you having a touch base of what you will going to study in your medical college. But there is a flexibility available in US and Canada. It is not mandatorily required for you to go for biological sciences. If you are having any other interest, or the interest is inclined with study medicines and other interests, you can do 4 years of degree in that interest, can take the courses related to medicines in 4 years of undergraduate degree. And once you are done with your undergraduate degree, in last year, you have to sit for an MCAT exam. MCAT exam is a mandatory requirement to apply for medical colleges in USA and Canada. So once you will take MCAT exam and can score well, you will submit your application for medical college. We will going to cover in other following slides that what all medical colleges look at. But when it comes to undergraduate degree to apply in USA, the common criteria, you will see that universities look at your GPA, your standardized test, your extracurricular activities, and your complete application, why you want to study medicines and why you have taken whatever course you're applying for 4 years degree program. After doing your medical college of 4 years, which is 4 plus 4 years, which is 8 years, you get a degree of MD in US and Canada. There would be a different names of degree in few of the universities, but generally medicines is known as MD. The degree is known as MD in US and the Canada. Now, when you complete your medicines, then further you have to study USMLE. You have to study for USMLE exam. These are few exams which you have to take before applying for residency in the US and Canada. Now, I'll give you a brief understanding of what basically USMLE and residency is, because unless and until you complete your residency there, you are not allowed to practice as a doctor in both these countries. So USMLE exams consist of 4 set of exams. It's generally known as 3 steps: step 1, step 2, step 3. But step 2 is divided into two steps. So step 2 CS and CK. To apply for residency, what do you mean by residency here is basically masters. So what specialization you are interested in, you will apply, you will submit your application for that. And once you are accepted, you will start with your masters in the specialized field which you are looking at. And based on the master's field, your duration of the program would be, it's a minimum of 3 years, but can goes up to maximum of 7 years. So when you are looking at US and Canada, you have to continue working towards your residency as well during your medical college. Because while doing 4 years of medical college, you will going to take the following steps which are required for applying for residency. For example, when we are considering step 1, which is a basic sciences exam that you can take after a completion of your first or second year of medical college. If you will take all these steps after doing your medical college, it would be a gap and it will delay your process of applying for residency. So it is always good to apply for these steps, clear these steps with good scores during your medical college itself, so that just after your medical college you can get into residency program. So step 1 can be taken after your 2 years of medical college because it's a basic sciences program, and step 2 is a clinical knowledge program which can be taken after your next 2 years, which is your 4th year of medical college. Step 2 CS is a pass-fail exam. It's a practical exam which can only be taken in USA. So you can apply for that exam, can study for that exam, and can take that exam. Once you take these 3 tests, basically step 1 and step 2, then you will be eligible to apply for residency. Step 3 can be taken during completion, during your residency, and then you can start practicing in USA or Canada. We have already discussed the competent level of how the applicants are selected. So when it comes to residency, not specifically medical college, then only 5,000 students are selected, international students are selected for residency. So if your goal is to practicing in USA, it is always good to start your undergraduate in the US and continue a medical college in the US, because you will get more weightage to apply for residency, and your application will be stronger than other international applicants. Now, because of the longer duration of the program in the US and Canada, students are here more keen on studying medicines in the UK. UK has different level of education. Let's have a look at it. So first level of education here is the standard entry medicines level. This is usually 5 years long, but in some institutions it is 6 years as well. It can have different abbreviations, can be known as MBBS or MCHD. So there are different abbreviations for the degree program, but this is a standard medicine entry program which you apply just after your high school, with your high school grades and whatever we will going to cover in following slides, that what are the requirements for it. The next level is graduate entry medicines program. At times students take this route as well, wherein they do their bachelor's in sciences in their own country or some other country, and that goes with US as well. So they do their bachelor's and then apply for lateral entry, which is known as graduate entry. So graduate entry medicine, this is an open application for those who already have bachelor's degree. Many universities accept a degree with any subject, but some require previous degree to be science or health related program. It is a 4-year accelerated degree in most of the cases. With the start, which makes it 6 years course. This course is designed for those who achieve highly at A level or equivalent, but who did not take the required sciences subjects. So this extra year gives students the necessary science training to catch up, and it is not a means of boosting the grades of those who do not meet the entry required for the standard entry medicines. So it's not like that if you're scoring less, then you can do 1 year of foundation and can then go for the standard entry medicines program. Medicines with a gateway year. Uh, this medical degree are basically designed for the other students, like who are a high ability but who may be coming from situation wherein they had some kind of barriers towards their learning. The course can take this into account in different ways. For instance, by using adjusted criteria to change the entry requirement for the applicants for low participation areas. Often these are 6 years courses, with the first year beginning with foundation year. Some schools offer a standalone foundation year, which allows progression onto a standard medicine course. Now here I would like to say that all these courses, that standard leaving standard entry medicines program, the other 3 entry points are not all the universities open for the international students. There could be a possibility that for these program, many of the universities will accept only European students, not the non-AU student. So while looking at the university, it is very important for us to understand that if we are applying to this university, is this program open for us or not? So make sure that you are checking the criteria before shortlisting the universities and the different entry program which you are looking at. Let's look at the UK admission criteria. The most important factor here is academics because as we have already discussed, the medicines program are the most competitive program and the selection rate of the applicants is not as good as the other programs which are available at undergraduate level. So having very good academics, highly competitive academics are very, very important criteria. Students do think of that, I mean, with 60%, 70% academic, they may apply to medicines program, but the chances of getting the admission is really, really less. So make sure that you are working on your academics right from your high school year. Universities in UK generally look at your 10th and your predicted 12th grade, and then later on ask you to submit your the senior high school year grades based on which they will going to accept your application. So academics are really important. I would also like to cover here when it comes to academic, the different curriculum which we are having in Middle East. So UK universities, they are having different criteria for all different curriculums which we are in. For A levels, let's suppose an IB curriculum, they are having different criteria. For American curriculum, they want student to submit other sets of things. For CBSE, so you also have to look at the different admission requirement. I mean, I would say the specific admission requirement for the curriculum which you are in, and then proceed towards working towards your application. Personal statement, because UK applications for medicines programs are done through UCAS, and in UCAS you have to submit a personal statement of purpose, which is very important again, because this is a statement wherein you are showcasing that what kind of academic well-rounded person you are and why you are interested in the particular program which you are applying to. Again, for personal statement, we are covering more in upcoming slides. Moving on to admission test. When you are applying for medicines in the UK, the mandatory test for all the universities would be UCAT or BMAT. Now, why I said UCAT or BMAT? Because there are few universities who accept UCAT and few accept BMAT. So again, you have to be sure that what universities you're shortlisting should accept one particular test so that you do not have to prepare for multiple tests and then select that you will be going for UCAT or BMAT exam. As I mentioned earlier, the universities look at the student with different curriculum. I like to give an example here. For example, if you're from American curriculum, let's suppose, then university will ask you to take additional admission test. They may ask you to take APs, SAT test, SAT subject test. So these would be the additional required test which would be required to study medicines in UK. Of course, English proficiency test may also be required based on curriculum again. So you have to take IELTS, not TOEFL, because IELTS is not, TOEFL is not accepted in UK. So make sure that you are taking IELTS. Again, when you are looking at different entries, you have to see that what entry program you're going for. Based on that, you will decide that you will take IELTS or IELTS UKVI. Because IELTS UKVI is the test, English proficiency test, which is required when you're going for foundation year. But if you're going for standard entry program, then you will take a regular academic IELTS exam. Once you submit your application with all these requirements, based on your application, university will ask you to come for interview. Interview is a very important criteria in the UK for medicines program. It can be taken in different forms, such as a single panel interview or a series of short interview, which is called multiple mini interview. Different style can focus on different attributes in the candidate. So you have to prepare well when you get a call from the university for interview. Again, we will going to cover about interviews in our following slides. Work experience. We can understand that work experience in terms of being a high school student, what exactly it means. I will going to elaborate it in detail in upcoming slides, but yes, work experience is also very important when you are applying for medicines program across the globe. It's not only in the UK or the US, but it's across the globe. So uh, just give uh, I mean, I can see that. Okay. Okay. So work experience is very much required. We will going to discuss that what kind of work experience would be required, because as a high school student, it is not possible for you to work full time. And it is considering the age which you are coming in your high school, we are having certain restriction when it comes to work in hospitals and other healthcare sectors. So we will discuss this in detail. The last part is the widening participation. Medical schools may specify what kind of experience they are looking at, but the medical school council believes that an applicant's chance of entering the medical degree should be dedicated by the factors such as academic ability, motivation, and consistency and consciousness. So if in case the student is having more widened participation perspective, which he will going to present in front of the universities with different factors, then the university may also consider his or her application. Now, let's move on to our other study destination, medicines in Germany. Let's understand how the process of becoming a certified doctor is there in Germany. So there are different stages which you have to cover up. Stage 1 is preclinical phase. This stage is for 4 semester, which is for 2 years long, and will introduce the key basics of natural sciences and medicines. It concludes with the first medical licensing examination. So just like other medicines program, our first 2 years are always to understand the basic sciences of medicines and the other sciences program. The second stage is clinical phase, wherein this is the main phase of study, which is of 6 semesters, sorry, and is of 3 years long, comprising the core subjects taught in lectures, practical courses, internships, and through seminars. So this is the most important stage. The third stage is a practical year. The main phase of the study is followed by a practical year. This is 1 year of clinical training in which you will introduce to the practical aspects of surgery, internal medicines, and elective subjects. This phase provides on-the-job experience to prepare you for future profession. Now, state examination is important. So basically, if you are completing stage 3, that means you are completing your degree program. But that doesn't mean that you are eligible to apply for practice medicines in Germany. For that, you have to go and appear a state examination. This is the last step in completion your medical degree in Germany, is to pass the state examination, a nationally standardized examination. After taking and passing the examination, you can apply for your medical license and being working as a certified doctor. Later on, you may decide to continue your education to become a medical specialist, which depending on what subjects you want to specialize, and can take another 5 to 6 years to complete your master's. Now let's have a look at the selection criteria in Germany. The factors which I have discussed in the US, Canada, or UK, few factors are similar across the globe when it comes to your academics, your personal statement, or your interviews. The key selection area when it comes to Germany, it is little different from the other countries because in Germany, the high school program duration, the complete high school is after completing your 13 years of education. So the first criteria I would say it's you need to have a very good knowledge of German, which you will need to prove with a strong score in a test such as TestDef or the DSH. In your language skills aren't up to scratch yet, don't worry. You can enroll in Germany for pre-study German course, or you can enroll here for German language course and can take your test later. This will help you to get your language skills to to the level required for the medicine study in Germany. International students, we need to check their sorry, qualification which they are eligible for. If it's not, you may need to have attend a 1-year preparatory course. Like I was mentioning, the 13 years of high school education. So if you do not have A levels are completely accepted in Germany because it's a 13 years of education. Many of the universities accept few IB curriculum students as well. But when it comes to other curriculums like American curriculum, CBSE, they want the students to complete their 13 year of education. They can either complete their 13th year of education by doing a 1-year preparatory course and can sit for a final exam of study in college in Germany, or they can do their 1 year of bachelor's degree here and can then apply. In most of the cases, students prefer going for 1 year of preparatory course in Germany. For 1 year of that preparatory course, you may have a little understanding of German language and can apply there and can study your German language further over there. The exam assesses the qualification of the applicant for entering studies at the university in the Federal Republic of Germany. Once you will do your 1 year of preparatory course, when you will take the exam, this will going to assess that you can further apply for the university for medicines program over there or not. Last but not the least is the extensive high school knowledge of biology, chemistry, and physics, not different from other countries. So that is required by all the countries across the globe for any medicines program which you're looking at. Medicines in rest of the Europe. Herein I have covered Ireland, Hungary, Czech Republic, Italy, and France. Because of one particular reason, because when you look at the other countries in Europe, then there are countries which are having language barriers wherein you have to have, just like Germany is one. So the students, when they are looking for the countries wherein the medicines is taught in English, then they may rule out Germany as an option. So is the other countries in Europe. So these are the top most popular countries which we make the students apply to. And there are different universities. It's not like that all the universities will going to give you will make you study medicines in English, but there are some specific universities which you can look at in these destinations, which offers a medicines program in English. Now, when it comes to the admission requirement to these countries, I will not going to repeat myself again and again because the medicine requirements are same. They are not asking for any standardized test. That's the difference. Unlike UK, the US, and Canada, these universities or countries, they want you to submit an application with a very good academic scores and your rest of the profile, which may include your work experience, extracurricular activities, with an English proficiency test. But these like Ireland, based on your academic, your personal statement, they may invite you for interview and can offer you study in medicines. Ireland is completely academic focused country. Hungary, Czech Republic, Italy, and France, when you're applying to the universities in these locations, they may ask you to submit initial application, and they may have some entrance test, which can be then taken in your own country, or may you have to travel to their country to appear for that exam. Once you take that exam, based on your application component, and the performance in that exam will make the university decide that they will going to give the seats in medicines to you or not. The last destinations which we are going to cover is Middle East. The popular countries are Turkey, Jordan, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE. The similar criteria these countries also follow, but they do not have mostly any kind of other entrance exam. It is mostly the academics, your experience, your personal statements, submitting the application, and few of these countries may ask you for interview, and few may evaluate based on the application you will going to submit. So the conclusion is that it is very important, because the first basic criteria for you to get into medicines program is your application component, which is a mix of your academic qualification, your grades, and a mix of what you have done other than academics. So let's see what it takes to get into medicines program in detail. So whatever component selection criteria we have discussed in general for the countries, let's discuss this in detail. So as I mentioned, the three components: grade grades, grade test scores, and grade applications. These are the key components which you have to focus on right from your initial high school years. Grades are really important. I'm saying this again and again because this is the base for you to apply for medicines program anywhere in the world. So target to have 3.5 GPA and above, and try to keep strengthening your academics. Even if you are having some year or some semester wherein you were unable to perform well, that's okay. Try to improve on it and showcase yourself that you are improving consistently. Grade test scores, be it SAT score, SAT subject test, your UCAT, BMAT, IELTS, these scores, again, it's not like that you can take the test and can't score well and then you can get through. If the universities, the US and Canadian universities, based on the scores which you will be having, they will going to give you the admissions in undergraduate. But UK universities mostly have specific requirement which you have to complete that requirement to become a prospective or strong applicant in the university to be accepted for the admissions. Great application, the other application components which we have discussed and will discuss in the further slides. Now, when it comes to academic experience or maybe work experience or experience, I would say, I have categorized this experience in 4 categories. We will see academic experience, your service experience, your clinical experience, or your leadership experience. Because once experience is not a one kind of experience, we most of the time we think when it comes to studying medicines and when it comes to work experience, it's basically technically means to work in a hospital. No, it's not like that. There are different areas of experience which you have to showcase in your application, starting with academic experience. Now, what is research opportunities? Research opportunities, it's not like that you have to write a paper and you have to get it published, or you have to do the research like the undergraduates, masters or PhD students are doing. No, not like that. It's basically researching on what exactly you're looking at. You should be having a thorough understanding of the program which you're applying for, why you want to study medicines, what criteria, what subjects, what core subjects, and what is the in-depth understanding to it. And then if you are interested in particular area to explore more, definitely that would be an plus point to your application if you can study and research and create a paper on the topic which you are interested in. Nowadays, there are different healthcare institutes. There are some online places wherein you can prepare your research proposal, submit there, and based on that, you can get the recommendations from the professors. So that's what the research opportunity is. Tutoring. Now, tutoring is, again, it doesn't mean that to just teach anybody your subjects. It also includes that, but tutoring in layman language here is that how to explain complicated things simply. For example, let's suppose if a person is smoking, and if you want to say that no, you should not smoke, you will get die, it will hamper your health, and blah blah blah. So it may not be, it is possible that the person will not going to listen to you. But explaining that particular thing to that person in a different, simple language, so that there could be a better outcome, he can understand what is the why it's not good to smoke. That is what tutoring is. That kind of experience, that's what the universities are looking for. Definitely, you can teach poor people, poor students, you can teach your classmates who are weak. That's also a part of tutoring, but in the end, it's basically to explain complicated things in simple language. That's what tutoring, which they are looking for, the experience which they are looking for. So when you will talk about that you have taught such so and so student for 1 year, 2 year in this particular program in school, honestly, it will not help much. But when you'll explain in your personal statement or in your interview that how you make the life of that one particular person easier by tutoring him or her certain strategies or things, that is the experience which universities are looking at. Because in that, they are also understanding that you are not only teaching to somebody else, but you are also learning that how there is a different strategy for different students. Study abroad is another academic experience. Whatever I am covering, see, it's not mandatory, not mentioned on the websites that you have to have this. But having a competition for the medicines program, it is important that in whichever key areas you can make your profile strong, you should go ahead with that. Now, study abroad is basically to have diversity in your profile, to interact with different people, with different languages, with different culture. Thankfully, UAE, Middle East is a destination wherein when you're studying in schools, most of the schools, there is a diversity. You are having different nationality students to try to gain as much as you can from them. Learning a new language would be very good for your application. For example, if you're applying to Germany, you can learn German, which is a mandatory thing. For any other language which you're interested in the different location, because it is also showcasing that it's not only that you're learning a language, it's you're thinking towards it that you want, that you should be more you should be easily communicate with the people wherein you are going to. Let's move on to the other set of experience, service experience. Now, service experience is basically you have to understand that whom you are serving basically. So you can serve to you can choose, you can serve in your at your home, you can serve your siblings, your sister or brother who are facing some challenges. You're serving your mom by taking care of your siblings. You're serving to the society. So basically, you have to understand what kind of group you're serving, because it is very important that it will help you to understand the effective, how it is changing your personal life. So this service experience is important, because this will showcase that are you a person that who wants to give something back to the society. And if you are giving something back to the society, which particular area you are more interested in. And it's not again like you're doing a medicines, you're going for a medicines program, then you only have to look for hospitals, hospitals and hospitals. No, it's not like that. So you can service in any area. You can be a person who is keen on saving the environment, because some way or the other, everything is connected to each other. In the end, medicines is not to save a patient. Medicines is to serve people. Now, serving people, definitely taking care of their illness and to make them feel better, but it is also in some way to make your community better. So understand that which area you are exploring, because it should demonstrate that there is a selflessness. It should not be like that you are doing for the application's sake. You're going to some seminar, you're going for 5 days of volunteering service, and after that you are not doing nothing. So that will only showcase that you are doing just to add it to your resume, but you do not have any intention to do so. So make sure that it should be a continuous thing which you are doing for at least for number of hours and number of months. Volunteering in non-health related fields, it is actually important, because in Middle East and in other countries, we are having some age restrictions that you can't go to hospital and do volunteering at certain age of your high school year. So it's good that you can volunteer in non-health related sectors. Leadership experience. Now, why leadership experience is important when it comes to study in medicines program? Just look at the future. When you'll become a doctor, you have to manage your team. You have to manage a hospital. You have to see that how the other team members are working. So demonstrating that leadership experience right from the beginning gives an edge that you already know how to communicate with people, how to work in a team, and how you can lead a team. So all these factors are really important. So demonstrating management skills, engender trust in others, and take the rein in the bad situation are the key factors which showcase that you have leadership experience. So start working towards what you are interested in and try to achieve to the position wherein you can lead a team or can take the decision for a group of people, and should not let them down. Trust them, understand them, and make them to reach up to certain achievement level. That kind of leadership experience is also considered by the universities. Last is clinical experience. Try to aim for 100 hours clinical exposure. I know it's difficult. We have already discussed the age barrier, but try to connect the people who are, your family members or their relatives, their friends who are doctors working in hospitals, so that you can get a chance to work some way or the other in the hospital. Because we have seen there are students who do not have any clinical experience, and they just say that because of age restriction, but there are some students who have gone out of their way, out of their comfort box, try to approach different people and try to manage that kind of clinical exposure. So if the applicants are there who are having clinical exposure and somewhere you are not showcasing that and mentioning that because of the age barrier, you can think of that how university will going to consider your application. Try to shadow in 3-5 different areas. Students go for like they get a chance to work on admin level of the hospital. Um, so that's fine. You can, or maybe they get a chance to walk around with nurses or other physicians. So whatever chance you get, try to explore different areas. Don't stick to one particular area, so that you have an understanding of that how hospitals or healthcare sectors work. So it would be always better to test the waters of what you are actually interested in. It will give an edge for your application to put more content, practical content you have seen from your point of view, that how these things work. Personal statement, again, a very important factor. We have seen so many students who are writing personal statement by using the cliches like I want to become a doctor, and everyone love sciences, want to help and serve and want to do medicines because of grandparent died, some kind of tragedy in the family. So don't use these kind of statements in your personal statement. University, when they are looking at your application, personal statement is one particular document. They are having numbers. They are having numbers of your academics, your standardized test, and they are having some listing of the work experience which you have done. But when it comes to know you, personal statement is one single document, or maybe letter of recommendations to an extent, is the document which will going to tell the university that what kind of person you are. So rather than just listing down your work experience, talking about your academics and giving these cliche things that you want to become a doctor to serve people, patients or something like that, try to make it unique. Try to write about the experiences which you had and what you have learned from them and what you want to do beyond that. Don't use I too much in your personal statement. Always write in an active voice. Be in a narrative format when you're writing a personal statement. Because see, university, the admission committee is reading so many personal statements, so it is very important that when they are reading your personal statement, they are knowing a person behind this application. What is the uniqueness in you as a person, as an applicant? That's very important. So try to use more unique points what you can see. Don't use the general statements at all in your personal statement. Secondary application, as I said, there are some different criteria for the universities to when it comes to application process. Some universities may ask you to submit an initial application, and then later on they ask you to submit secondary application, which may include some kind of interview, video interview, writing samples, or something or the other. So make sure when they are asking you to submit secondary application, instead of looking at what is the deadline to submit the application, don't delay it and try to submit in next 2-3 weeks. Start writing samples immediately, because it is very important. You should always, whenever you're writing samples or you are writing on personal statements, always try to write, review, revise, and rewrite. These are the 4 R's which you should follow while writing the personal statement or writing samples. So it's not like that once it comes to you, then only you will going to start working on it. Keep on writing, keep on brainstorming that what would be the best for your writing samples and your personal statement. When it comes to secondary application, make sure that there should not be any repetition of what you have submitted in the primary application. It's really important when university is asking for secondary application. That means they are asking for more information, not the repetition of the information which you have submitted in initial application. So submit your secondary application if it is there for the university you are applying for timely. Interviews, last but not the least, a very important criteria, specifically when it comes to UK and few other popular destinations. Sorry. Interviews again. When it comes to international students, most of the interviews would be online. Universities may ask you to record your interview and ask you to submit through a video platform. So make sure when you are doing your video interview, you should be nicely dressed. I mean, look professional and act professional at all the times. At what university going to start looking at when it comes to your right from the beginning of your application. So when you are sitting in front of computer, either the person is there sitting next to you or there is a camera on which you are recording it. Make sure the eye contact is there. The tone of the voice should not be loud, should not be, you should not be nervous, you should not be overconfident, or you should not be, I mean, make sure that you are, the tone of the voice is absolutely good, and the presentation is also, make sure that the room which you are in is a closed room wherein there is no disturbance. The system which you are with should have, well beforehand, you should make sure that all the technical stuff is there in that system, and then sit in front of the computer or a laptop and then start your interview. Be prepared for any or all question. Now again, herein, why you want to become a doctor. Again, don't start with the general statement, please, because university, the interviewer, basically just like a personal statement, an admission committee who's reading your personal statement, other than your other parts of the applications, numbers, the experience, the uniqueness in your personal statement which you are showcasing, that's what the admission committee which take in their mind forward to submit your case in front of all the admission committee people. So is the interviewer. When you are interviewing yourself, then make sure that you only talk about the unique things about you, your unique experience about you. Don't talk general, don't give general answers to the questions, because there is a repetition. They are listening from all the applicants. So make sure that whatever the way you are answering, it should be a unique thing coming out from your own perspective, and you make them understand that what you're talking about yourself. At times it happens, the students, when it comes to interview, they just they are in maybe nervous, or they just want to answer, they jump onto the question to answer it. So take your time, listen to the question well, or read the question well in front of your system. Take a deep breath. You will be having few seconds to think about your answer and then speak. Don't just jump to the question to answer it. Review your application and research the medical school. That's very important. Make sure when you are going for an interview, you should take a look to your application, because the interviewer may ask you certain questions or certain things which you have already mentioned your application to have a check. And also the university which you are being interviewed, it is important for you to make sure that you know that what are the unique points for the medicines program in that particular university, because university most of the time they ask for the question that why you are applying to us. So make sure you have done a good research on the medical college or medical school which you are applying to. This is the last option, wherein when you feel like that we don't get time, we were working on academics, we are not getting time because of so that there should not be any lackness in your academic grades. So it would not be bad to take a gap year. If you want to improve your profile, we have seen that there are students who take a gap year to strengthen their profile and then present a better application in front of the universities. I would suggest try to do it during your high school years. There are many students who are doing that. If by any chance not possible, it's not an excuse to put in front of the university. You have to have a strong application to present in front of the university to make sure you can take a gap year if you want. Okay. So questions, let me just look at the chat quickly. So one question I can see is a recommendation letter needed for UK, and what point should be included in the recommendation letter? What is given by the teacher? Yes, there is one letter of recommendation which is required by the UK universities, and that's an online recommendation within the link directly goes to your recommendation recommender. When it comes to what points should be included, I'm sure your teachers are well aware of it to make sure, but yes, it is difficult for them to remember each and every student. So it's good that you can prepare your own resume or pointers. Some students are having a sheet named brag sheet, which the recommender asks them to submit before writing the recommendation letter for them. So give that sheet to them. Ask the when it comes to what teachers should include, again, it is very important that the teacher should know all the activities which you are mentioning in the brag sheet. So it should not be like that teacher can just give a general listing of that you have done all these things. It should be satisfied with the example. So that means the teacher should be aware of that. So keep academics definitely, because it's one letter of recommendation which is submitted to UK university and a combination of your work experience, if it is done under the observation of teacher and the school is well aware of, or the other extracurricular activities which may include the different experiences which we have just talked about. Next question, what's the language of study? The countries which I have covered, we are mostly looking for the countries and universities wherein the language of study is English. So the primary and secondary must be not even correlated. I don't understand this question. Primary and secondary of what? If you can type your question again. I am currently in grade 11. Next year I have to select my APs. Do you prefer APs or subject test for Canada and US? Yes, definitely. You have to see what you are studying right now, and based on that you have to take the advanced level of APs. So see your curriculum, so biology, chemistry, physics, and the different APs which are available in that, I would recommend you to go for that. Don't duplicate your APs and SAT subject test, I would suggest, because it varies from university, from students to student and the curriculum to curriculum. I will share my email ID. You can send your complete profile to me, and then I can give you a more specific answer to it. Okay. Okay, so now is the time for my colleague, Mr. Puneet, to take over to give you an understanding on UCAT. And if you have any question or I have left with any question to answer, don't forget to drop an email to me on this particular email ID, and I will going to help you. Thank you so much for listening. Puneet, now you can take over.
Hello, hi, good evening, everyone. I hope everyone is fine. So my name is Puneet, and I'm Pastor from Pilani, and I take care of the academics for GMAT, GRE, SAT, and we will be discussing about the UCAT exam. What is the pattern of the exam? What sections are there, and how Scopeless can help you in getting a good score. So let's start with the exam introduction. Next slide. All right, so let's discuss about the UCAT exam. So if you go to the next slide, UCAT is basically University Clinical Aptitude Test, UCAT, and it was earlier called as UKCAT. They changed the name last year only. So this exam is basically used as the selection criteria to select Hello? Yeah. Can all of you see the presentation, the slide? All right. So coming to the UCAT exam, this is a computer-based test and it is administered by Pearson VUE and it is administered in UK and internationally. This exam happens only once a year. So the exam will be happening only once a year. If you go to the previous slide, Ruchika. Yeah, so this happens only once a year and the score is valid only to that specific academic year. There is no negative marking at all, so you should answer all the questions. The question which you can answer in the time frame and the remaining you can guess because there is no negative marking. Now the total duration of exam is 2 hours. So you will be getting total 5 sections in the exam. The first is verbal reasoning, which has 44 questions and the time limit is 22 minutes. 1 minute is for the instruction and remaining 21 minutes is to solve the verbal reasoning section. Coming to the next, that is decision making. You will have 29 questions and 32 minutes are there. So again, 1 minute is for instructions and the remaining 31 to solve. Then you have quantitative reasoning, which has 36 questions and the time limit 25 minutes, including the 1 minute for the instruction. Then abstract reasoning, 55 questions and for 14 minutes, 1 minute for instruction. And the last is situational judgment, 69 questions will be there, 27 minutes time and 1 minute for instruction. So 26 minutes to solve. If you go to the next slide. Yeah, so starting with the verbal reasoning section, that'll be passage based. You will be given around 11 passages and each will be having 4 questions around. So total 44 questions will be there. And as I told you, 21 minutes will be there for solving and 1 minute is for the instruction. Coming to the next, decision making. We will go into the detail for each section later on. I'm giving you the brief overview. So in decision making, you will be having data inference, arrangement kind of question, and they will be having charts, tables, Venn diagram. 32 minutes, again 1 minute for instruction and 31 minutes for solving. Next slide. Next, quantitative reasoning. So in this, they will ask you based on percentages, tables, ratio, and they will combine all and make a good set out of it. So you will be having 36 questions associated with tables, chart, graph. You will be having 25 minutes, 1 minute for instruction, 24 minutes to solve. Next, abstract reasoning. This is basically figure-based reasoning. So they will give you figures and then ask you to find the next figure or find the pattern. So 55 questions will be there, 13 minutes for solving, 1 minute for instruction. Next. Situational judgment. Now in this, they will give you a situation, let's say the right now situation, there is a doctor and a patient, something associated with that, and they will ask you to solve using your reasoning. So you will be having 69 questions and 20 scenarios will be there. 26 minutes to solve, 1 minute for instruction. Next slide. Yeah, if you come to the scoring, how the scoring is done in the UCAT exam, this is marked on the number of correct answers you give. As I told you, there is no negative marking at all. So you should answer all the questions because there is no negative marking at all. And your performance on one question does not influence the next question which will be coming. So it's not adaptive. The questions are fixed and based on your performance, it won't change the next question. So the raw scoring for each section, it will be 300 to 900. Like verbal reasoning, decision making, quantitative reasoning, and abstract reasoning. All will be on a scale of 300 to 900. So the 2019, the total score of the UCAT was from 1200 to 3600. And 4 sections are graded in that. The last section, situation judgment, they will give you band-wise performance, which I will be coming in later in the slide. Next slide. Yeah, so this is the breakup. Verbal reasoning, 44 questions. The score range is 300 to 900, and each question is worth 1 mark. Then decision making, you will be having 29 questions, same 300 to 900, maximum, minimum, maximum. Now, with correct answers are worth 1 mark, and with multiple statement, if you have, then 2 mark. And if you get partial correct in the multiple statement, then you will be getting 1 mark for that. Then quantitative reasoning, again 1 mark each. Then abstract reasoning, also 1 mark each. And situational judgment, that will be band-wise, which I will come later on. Next slide. Yeah, so this is the last section, situation judgment section scoring. So in this, they will be giving you full marks if your response matched the correct answer, and partial mark if your response is closest to the correct answer. So your raw score is given in 4 bands: band 1, band 2, band 3, band 4. So band 1 is for those who showed excellent performance in the situation judgment section. So which is very similar to the panel of experts answers. So they will get band 1. Then band 2, which will be like good solid performance, but less than band 1. Then band 3, which will be having moderate. So it's like average, not matching the excellent one, but average performance. And the last is band 4, which is the lowest. So their judgment is differing to the ideal response which should come. Next. Now this is the test for statistics. In year 2019, total 29,375 students gave the exam, and this is the average score. So the average score for verbal was 565 out of 900. Decision making was 618 out of 900. Quantitative reasoning 662, and abstract reasoning 638. So the overall average score, if I calculate for the UCAT, comes out to be 2483. That's the average score. So if you check the percentile on the next, the right column, so the first, if you take the 90th percentile, the last row, which is 2800. So if you get a score above 2800, then it's very good. And then if you go 10 percentile down, 2690, then more down. So average is around 2483. So if you have above 2500, then it's above average. But if you have above 2800, then it's very good score. And the situation judgment section will be separate. So this gives you the performance for all the bands. So if you see here, only 10% of students who gave the exam got band 4. 33% students were in band 3, 40% were in band 2, and 17% were in band 1. So even if you get band 3, band 4, then it's fine. Next slide. Now, coming to the exam dates, registration, when it is opening and all that. So there is nothing finalized for year 2020 because of COVID-19 situation. But I will tell you about year 2019, how it was. Based on that, you can speculate, but there is nothing final till now. They have not published anything on their website. The registration opened in 1st May 2019, and the testing began in 1st July 2019. The online registration closed on 18th September. And if you want to reschedule or you book another, then 1st October. The last testing date was 2nd October. So you had to give exam before the 2nd October. And as Ruchika told you, the UCAS application deadline, that was 15th October 2019. So you had to finish your exam before 2nd October, and you had to finish your application before 15th October. Now, the results were delivered to the universities in early November 2019. But for 2020, we don't have a clue because they have not published anything till now on their website. Coming to the test fees, so the test taken in EU between 1st July to 31st August, that was €55. Then 1st September to 2nd October, that was 80 euro. But the test taken outside the European EU, like Middle East or India, then it was 115 euro. So we can speculate 2020 also they will keep almost the same fees. Next slide. Coming to the score results. So as soon as you finish the UCAT exam online at your center, you will be getting a copy of your score report. So you will be getting for all the 4 sections, and the last situation judgment that you will be getting later. The score report that will be also accessible online, so you can log into your PSN View account and you can view your score report. And you will get your PDF after 24 hours once you finish the exam. So 2020 results will be valid for 2021 UCAS admission cycle only. So it won't be valid if you want to apply for 2022. So it's applicable only 1 year for that academic year. So that you should keep in mind. Next slide. So let's go over all the sections and what kind of tricks you'll be learning here, some shortcuts, and how you can apply in the actual CAT exam. So you will be learning tricks here like plugging in. You have to take a particular value for a variable. You need to put it and you can get the answer quickly as compared to solving with the basic method. Plugging in the answers, so you don't have to solve, you can just put the options. You can try C and then you will get to know you want to go up or down. Estimation, so sometimes you can just take numbers very closest to like 20, 30, something with 0. So that'll help you in solving faster, and keep plugging away. So you have to try 2 or 3 times one particular value till the time you hit the answer. You will be also learning some topic-wise shortcuts. So you will be having percentage-based questions. In that, we will teach you how to solve multiplying factor. So let's ask everyone, you can write in the chat. Suppose there is a value, let's say 200, and I do 20% increase on the value, 20% increase on 200. So by what number you should apply 200 to get the final answer? Can anyone write in the chat? So I got 1 or 2 answers, 0.2, 1.3. So the correct answer is 1.2. Why? Because you're doing 20% increase. So the multiplying factor here, 1 plus x over 100. So 1 plus 20 over 100. So 1 plus 0.2, that makes 1.2. So you have to do 200 multiplied by 1.2. That will give you the final answer, 2.4. And if it is x% decrease, then you have to multiply by 1 minus x over 100. Then again you have ratios. How do you compare the ratio? So let's say I have something like, if A and B, the ratio is 3:4, and B and C 5:6. And I ask you find the combined ratio of A, B, and C, all 3 together. Can anyone write the answer in the chat? You can solve this in 5 seconds. You can write the answer even if it is wrong, there is no punishment. So you can write in the chat any answer like you think. All right, so there are some answers. I'll tell you the shortcut. You see the numbers, A and B, that is 3:4, right? And B and C, that is 5:6. So the easy way is called arrow method. What you have to do to find the A, you just have to do 3 times 5. 3 times 5. So that'll give you 15. That is A. For B, what you have to do? Take the B for both. So what is the B in first? 4 and B in second 5. So 4 into 5. 4 into 5 will give you 20. That's B. And for C, you have to take the last of both. So 4 and 6. So take 4 and 6. 4 into 6 will give you 24. So the answer will be 15 is to 20 is to 24. So that's how you can solve faster, how to compare the ratios. Let's take another one, weighted average. So suppose I have two groups, I'm combining them to find the final average. Let's take this example. There is a group of boys having average age 20 years and combined with a group of girls having average age 10 years. And the final group has an average age of 13 years. And I ask you find the ratio of number of boys to girls or find the final average age. So to solve this kind of question, we will teach you the direct formula, which is given by A1 into N1 plus A2 into N2 whole divided by N1 plus N2. So that will give you the final average age. So if you apply it here, you will get 20 multiplied by the number. Let's say whatever the number they'll give you, then 10 multiplied by the number and divide by the total numbers. So that way you can find the final average age. And to find the ratio of number of boys and girls, that's a different concept. You have to subtract from the final value. So you have 10, 20 and 13. So what you have to do, the middle number, which is 13, so subtract that from the other two numbers. So you will get 20 minus 13, 7, and 13 minus 10 gives you 3. So that's your answer, which is 7:3. So in that way, you can find the ratio of the number. Let's go to the next slide. So they will give you bar graph, line chart, pie chart, and then they will combine percentage ratio kind of questions in any one of the type. So bar graph, where the data is given in form of bars. So they will give you, let's say, men, women, urban and rural, their ages given like that. Then they will give you, let's say, line chart. Same, they can give you the data in form of 2 lines. And the last pie chart, so they will give you particular values. Let's say the sales for first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter was like this, and then you have to interpret and solve. So let's see the actual questions which you will have in exam. Let's go to the next slide. So this is the actual set. So if you go on the UCAT website, they have the actual questions there. So I have taken one set from that. This is the actual question which you will be getting same like that in the exam. So let's just try to solve one or two questions. Try solving QR21, the first question. Try solving and write the answer in the chat. I'll give you, let's say, 1 minute to solve. Please try. Any answer? Anyone? For QR21? Okay, let's solve it together. So what is the question saying? Of the adults in the group, what percentage correct to 1 decimal place can test PTC? Okay, so they're asking about percentage. So you have to take what they're asking, divide by the total. So I got one answer as 58 and 58. Okay, let's check. So first of all, you have to take total, how many are there? Now they're asking about adults. So you just have to take men and women. So I'll write in the chat How many men and women are there total? Just add them. 35 plus 72 plus 20 plus 16. So if you add all of them, you will get 187. Adults, okay, adults is basically men and women. Girls and boys are not adults. So you just have to take men and women. So total how many? 187, right? Now, what they're asking, can taste PTC. So how many men and women can taste PTC? How many women can taste PTC? 35. How many men can taste PTC? 72. So 35 plus 72, that'll give you how much? I'm writing in the chat, 107. So what you have to do, you have to take 107 is what percentage of 187. So Hamza, you are right. The answer is 57.2. So 107 divided by 187 and then multiply by 100. So you will get 107 divided by 187 times 100. Now there is a good thing, in the actual exam you will get on-screen calculator, because obviously calculating this much will require more time. So you can use that on-screen calculator and you can get the answer. So you will get 57.2%. So that's how you can solve the QR section. Let's take one more, try solving QR22, the second one. Try solving. What is the answer you will get? I will give you 1 minute to solve. And you can use the calculator because on-screen calculator is allowed. All right. So did anyone get the answer? Any option which you will mark? A, B, C, D, E. Even if you get it wrong, that's fine. All right, let's do it together. Now, they're saying 3 by 5 of women who can taste PTC. Okay, so Meghna has answered 41.1. You're correct, Meghna. The answer is 41.1B. Let's try to solve together for those who were not able to solve. 3 by 5 of women who can taste PTC. How many women can taste PTC? 35. So you have to take 3 by 5 of 35, right? So 3 by 5 of 35 will give you how much? 21. All right. Then 7 by 12 of the men who can taste PTC. So 7 by 12 of the men who can taste PTC. How many men can taste PTC? In the table, 72. So you have to take 7 by 12 of 72. So when you use on-screen calculator, what you'll get? 42. So add both of them, men and women. You will get the total number. Now this is what percent of the adults who can taste PTC. Do not drink coffee, right? So what number you get, just divide by total into 100. So you will get 41.1%. So that's how you can solve using the percentage. So these kinds of questions you will be getting in the actual exam. Let's move on to the another section, decision making. Now in decision making, you will be getting linear arrangement, circular arrangement, data inference, Venn diagram, sets, argument conclusion, and syllogism. So let's see what kind of sets are there. For example, let's go to the next slide. Yeah, all of you try to solve DM1. DM1 on the left side. Please try solving DM1. Did anyone get the answer? You have to be fast to solve quickly. Anyone, any answer? A, B, C, or D? Even if you get wrong, that's fine. Give it a shot, A, B, C, or D. Okay, no problem. Let's solve together. The correct answer is A. How do you solve? So first they have made the arrangement, read the statements and try to make the arrangement. First, make the people sitting who are fixed. So first statement, Mr. Nunn sits fifth from the left and with this and this on either side. So who is fixed? None. So fifth from the left. So if you start 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the fifth from the left will go to none. And on either side, you have Rourke and Percival. So if you see in the diagram, Rourke is on the left side. So Mr. Percival will be on the right side. So the answer we got from Hamza is D, but that's wrong. Let's solve together. So none will be on fifth, Rourke is on fourth, and Percival on the sixth from the left. Now, Rowlett sits as far as possible from Rourke. So Rowlett will be on the extreme left side or extreme right side, which is more far from Rourke, extreme right side. So extreme right side will go to Rowlett. Then Stephen sits next to Percival. So number 7 will go to Stephen. Then Zenzer does not sit beside Rourke or Rourke. So Zenzer will come either on the first or on the third. Now Warlock sits 3 seats away from none. That means the Warlock will be on the second number. So you will get the order. I'll write in the chat. The first will go to whom? Zenzer. The next will go to Warlock. The next will go to Warlock. The next will go to Rourke. And the next will go to none. And then Percival, Stephen, and Rowling. So that will be the order. So what will be the correct answer? A. So that's how you can make the arrangement seated and solve. So you have to make first who is fixed, that you have to make it seated. Let's try one more. DM14. If you see DM14, please try to answer for DM14. So this is based on the Venn diagram. This is DM14. Try to solve. Well, you'll get. I'll give you 1 minute to solve. Anyone has any answer for DM14? Okay, so Meghna answered C. Anyone else? Okay, Devansh, C. Hamza says B. The correct answer is C. If you read the question, what they're saying, option A, try eliminating, process of elimination. So try eliminating A, B, C, D. Always try with the middle one. So try with C. Now C is saying 8 people went to exactly 2 countries. So if you see exactly 2 countries, that is between France and Spain, 4. Because the 2 below that includes 3 countries. So we have to take only France and Spain, that is 4. Then take France and Greece, that is 1. Then take Spain and Greece, that is 3. So add all 3. 4 plus 3 plus 1. So 7 plus 1, that gives you 8. C is right. No need to go to check another answers because only one option is correct. So always try with the middle one. So then you will get to know whether you want to check the other or no. So this way you can solve. Let's try one more. DM15. What will be the answer? DM15. I'll give you 1 minute to solve. All right. So we got one answer from Meghna, which is A. Anyone else? Devansh, Hamza, any answer you want to say? Anyone other than A? Okay, let's solve it together. So there is one easy way to find it out. If you first read the statements. 12 people, of which 4 also played snooker, played table tennis, right? So there is a circle of 12, out of which 4 also playing snooker. So small circle of 4. Just keep in mind. Next, 9 played darts. None of these played either snooker or table tennis. So there will be one circle of 9 which is not intersecting with any of the circle. So check option. This is your fixed statement. Check this one. One circle should have only 9 and it should not be intersecting with any of the circle. Check A option. There is a one circle of 9. Yes. Is it intersecting with another? No. Check all other option. If this is not satisfying, that's your answer. B, is there any circle with 9? No. C, is there any circle with 9? No. D, is there any circle with 9? Yeah, there is one. But it is intersecting with other circles. So that goes out. So B, C, D out. The correct answer is A. So that's how you can interpret and you can solve the answer. Let's go to the next slide. Abstract reasoning. Now this is a bit tricky. They will give you figure-based reasoning. So there are 4 types which they ask. The type 1, they will give you 2 sets of boxes, set A, set B. Then you have to pick particular which is matching. Type 2, they will give you a series of shapes. There will be a pattern going. You have to find the next type. Then type 3, they will give you statement based in the group of shapes. You have to determine which shape completes the statement. And the last type 4, they will give you set A, set B, and you have to try 4 options which is matching, set A which is matching, set B. So your strategy should be SPONCS, SPONCS. That's the easy way to remember. S stands for shape. You have to check the shape, position, where it is positioned, first, center, middle, orientation, how it is oriented, clockwise, anti-clockwise, number, how many shapes are there, how many number of shapes, color, what color, like is it black or is it blank, size, what size is it, that you have to check. So let's try one of this. Next slide. Yeah, please try to solve the top one. So they are giving you 1, 2, 3, 4, and they're asking you the next one. So which option will complete the series? The next one, A, B, C, D. Try solving. I'll give you 1 minute to solve. Check for the particular shape, how it is going. All right, so we got 2 answers here from Meghna, and the answer which they told, that's D. Okay, let's check. Devansh also D, Hamza also D. D is the right answer. How? If you see the top black one, the first it is on the top, second it is in the middle, third it is on the lower. Then again top, so the next shape it will be in the middle. Check which option, the black is in the middle, either C or D. A and B goes out. Now check the next. If you check the right side, the square with the cross sign, a square with the cross sign, the first figure, it is in the center. Second, it is on the left. Then third, it is on the top. Fourth, it is in the middle. So next, it will go down. The square with the cross should be on the right most corner. So that's D. So that's how you can solve. Try one more, the AR6. 1 minute to solve. AR6. Check for the particular shape, how it is going. Yeah, so you got the answer as D. That's right. See, how do you solve? If you check, first let's take this figure with a square and a circle inside. So square and circle inside, first it's on the left, then it's on the right. So the same pattern you have to follow the below. So in the below, if you see this square with a circle inside, it's on the right, so it should come on the left. So A, B, C, D, where the square with the circle on the left, that's either B or D. Now B or D, the only difference you have, square and circle. So now check. If you check on the top, the square has become circle on the below. So in the next figure, square will become circle on the top. So that's D. So that's how you can solve the abstract reasoning. Let's go to the next slide. Now, verbal reasoning, they will give you passage-based questions. So there will be a passage of 200 to 300 words, and it will be objective with only one option correct. So this is a free text type of passage, and the second will be true, false, or can't tell type. Again, this one will have 3 options, either true or false or can't tell. So let's take one, next slide. So you will get a big passage like this, and based on that, you will have the questions. So 3 to 4 questions you can have on the each set. So that's let's just do VR11. Just try VR11. Look for the particular term they are asking. So they are saying the title of the book is appropriate. Why? So just check where they have described the summary. So we got one answer, which is D, and Meghna also D. That's right. So when you read the options, option A, no watchmaker is blind. There's nothing like that in the passage, so that goes out. The structure of living thing cannot be explained. That is also incorrect. A supreme being must be blind. That is also not for sure. So the D will be the right answer, which is natural selection does not depend on the intelligent design. So this way you can solve. There are two more questions which you can try later. Let's do the next section, which is SJ, situation judgment. Next slide. Yeah. So situation judgment, they will have two kinds of questions. The one is appropriateness questions. So in this, you will have to select whether the response is very appropriate thing to do, or appropriate but not ideal, or inappropriate but not awful, and the last, very not inappropriate. And the next you have importance questions. So based on that, you have to select whether the factor is very important, or of minor importance, or not important at all. So this is applicable to all the SJ questions. As I told you, you will get band-wise performance, band 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's go on to the next slide. Yeah, so let's try one of this. Just read the situation they have given, and based on that, try SJ61. Try the first one. So we got one answer, which is A. That's wrong. Any other answer? Yeah, so Meghna told B. B is right. So let's read the question what they're saying. A consultation is taking place between consultant and patient, and medical student is observing. The consultant tells that the patient requires some blood test to rule out a disease. Consultant is called away urgently, leaving the medical student alone with the patient. So the patient tells that the student that he's worried he's going to die, and asks the student what the blood test will show. So they are giving you the situation. Based on that, you have to answer. So how appropriate is the answer or a response by medical student in this situation? So the first one, explain to the patient that he's unable to comment on what the test will show as he's a medical student. So first option, a very appropriate thing to do. Is it very appropriate, or he should wait for the consultant to come? Obviously, he should wait for the consultant to come. So this is not very appropriate. The second one. Now, if you see, he's saying, explain to the patient that he's unable to comment on what the test will show, right? So this is appropriate, but this is not ideal. The ideal solution will be given by the consultant. So he should have told that way, but it is appropriate because he's not giving the response. So the correct is B. Let's try one more, SJ62. Try the 62. What will be the answer for 62? The same passage, you just have to read what is the question asking. So which will be the exact option, A, B, C, or D? We got one answer from Hamza, A. Anyone else? Any other option you have in mind? Yeah, so A is right. Why it is right? Because what they're saying, acknowledge that the patient's concern and ask whether he would like them to be raised with the consultant. So is it very appropriate thing? That's very appropriate because he's asking what concerns he have, he'll raise with the consultant. He's not giving advice on his own or he's not rejecting anything. So that's a very appropriate thing to do. Let's try one last. Just try SJ6464. Okay, so Hamza has answered D. Anyone else? Meghna, C. Anyone else? Any other option you want to go for? A, B, C, D? Okay, let's check. The correct answer is D because what he's saying, tell the patient that he should not worry and that it is unlikely that he will die. Now, he's giving this answer based on his own knowledge. He's not waiting for the consultant. So that is very inappropriate thing to do because he's saying unlikely that he'll die. Maybe he will, based on the reports, he has to tell. So without the reports, he cannot tell anything. So that's very inappropriate thing to do. Okay, you were Meghna saying SJ63, but SJ63 also the answer is B, not C. Because if you read the question carefully, SJ63 is saying suggest to the patient that he poses these questions to the consultant when he returns. So if he says something like this, will it be inappropriate? No, it is appropriate because he is doing the correct thing. He is waiting for the consultant to come and then he will answer. So for SJ63, it will be B. So that's how you will get in this SJ section. So these 5 sections, you will get questions like these. So if you practice enough and you know the tricks, then you can solve faster because timing is also very important here. You have to solve very fast. As you saw in the starting, the speed is very important here. Next slide. Now, coming to the class structure. So basically we do for each section, we do 2 classes of around 2.5 hours each, where we cover all the topic-wise theory. Like for example, quantitative reasoning, we will cover percentages, ratio, average, weighted average. After covering the theory, we will tell you the tricks like plugging in the answers, multiplying factors, and then subsequent class we will solve the questions. So you will do first the basic practice and then you will move on to the actual kind of questions. So you will be getting all the practice material and everything that we will discuss in detail. So that's all for now from this slide. If you have any questions related to the UCAT exam, you can write in the chat, or anything related to applications, you can write in the chat. Me and Ruchika will be happy to answer any of your query related to both of them.
Thank you so much, Puneet. I think the time is now to close. Anybody, any question? Okay, fine. Thank you so much for attending this webinar. I would like to repeat again that if in case you have any questions related to admissions, I would suggest I am mentioning the email ID over chat as well, acs@score-plus.com. Drop an email to us. In case of any query related to admission, you want to know anything about any other country, or do you want to add any other topic in our upcoming webinars, we will also going to send you a follow-up email with the webinar recording. You can always access at MPTU website, but try if in case you can share the feedback with us, the survey which we will going to do, so that we can include the other topics which you want in our upcoming webinars. Thank you so much. All stay safe. Thank you so much.